Can absolute knowledge exist? Philosophy, skepticism, science, and mysticism. Introduction. One of the oldest and most persistent questions in human thought is whether absolute knowledge is possible. Can anything be known with 100% certainty, or is all knowledge merely approximate, provisional, and context-deep? This question stands at the center of philosophy, science, religion, and mysticism. Skepticism challenges the possibility of certainty by suggesting that reality itself may be an illusion, while science functions successfully despite openly rejecting claims to absolute truth. Mystical traditions, meanwhile, claim access to an ultimate reality that cannot be grasped by concepts or language. This essay explores the question of absolute knowledge through 9 major philosophical and mystical perspectives, followed by a systematic discussion of 30 foundational questions that shape the debate. The goal is not to provide final answers, but to clarify the structure, limits, and depth of human knowing. Epistemology. What is knowledge? Epistemology, the philosophical study of knowledge, begins with a deceptively simple question: what does it mean to know something? Traditionally, knowledge has been defined as justified true belief. However, this definition immediately encounters problems. What counts as justification? How do we determine truth? And how do we rule out error? If absolute knowledge exists, it must be certain, infallible, and independent of perspective. Yet all human knowledge appears to pass through mediating structures: perception, reasoning, memory, and language. Each of these can fail. Thus, epistemology reveals a tension between our desire for certainty and the fragility of our cognitive tools. 2. Skepticism. The challenge of certainty. Skepticism pushes epistemology to its limits. Ancient skeptics such as Pyrrho argued that certainty is unattainable, while modern skeptics like Descartes raised radical doubts about perception, memory, and even mathematics. Descartes famously asked whether we could be dreaming or deceived by a powerful illusion. His attempt to defeat skepticism led him to cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Yet even this certainty is minimal. It guarantees the existence of thinking, not the nature of the thinker or the external world. Skepticism does not necessarily deny knowledge altogether. Rather, it exposes the lack of absolute foundations. Its enduring power lies in forcing every claim to justify itself. 3. Science. Knowledge without absolute science offers a striking paradox. It works extraordinarily well, yet it explicitly rejects absolute knowledge. Scientific theories are models, not final truths. They are provisional, revisable, and subject to Newton's laws were once considered universal, only to be revised by Einstein. Quantum mechanics further undermines classical certainty by introducing probability at the heart of physical reality. Science functions not because it reaches final truth, but because it produces increasingly reliable approximations. Thus, science demonstrates that certainty is not required for knowledge to be effective. Truth, in science, is asymptotic, approached but never fully attained. For ontology, the nature of reality, the possibility of absolute knowledge depends on the nature of reality itself. If reality is static and fixed, absolute knowledge might be conceivable, but many philosophical traditions describe reality as dynamic, relational, and Heraclitus famously claimed that everything flows and nothing remains the same. If reality is constantly changing, then knowledge must also be fluid. One cannot possess final knowledge of a moving target. Ontology therefore suggests that the limits of knowledge may reflect the structure of being. Itself. Logic and mathematics. The illusion of certainty. Logic and mathematics are often seen as domains of absolute truth. Yet, Eva Eddy's certainty has limits. Gödel's incompleteness theorems demonstrate that any sufficiently complex formal system contains true statements that can not be proven within the system itself. This result is devastating for the dream of absolute rational certainty. It shows that no system can fully ground itself. Even the most rigorous forms of knowledge rely on unprovable assumptions. Vi. Language. The limits of expression. Language is both the vehicle of knowledge and its limitation. Words do not directly capture reality. They classify, simplify, and abstract. Ludwig Wittgenstein argued that the limits of language are the limits of the world we can meaningfully describe. If absolute knowledge exists but cannot be expressed without distortion, then it cannot function as propositional knowledge. Language inevitably introduces ambiguity, context, and interpretation. 7. Phenomenology. Knowledge as experience shifts the focus from external reality to lived experience. According to Edmund Husserl, we never access things in themselves, only how they appear to consciousness. All knowledge is therefore there's no view from nowhere. This does not imply but it does undermine the possibility of knowledge that is completely detached from the Noah. 8. Mysticism. Knowing by being. Traditions across cultures converge on a radical claim. The ultimate reality cannot be known conceptually, but only directly experienced. In Zen Buddhism, this is awakening. In Hinduism, the realization of Atman as Brahman. In Christian mysticism, union with God through negation. Mystics often insist that absolute truth is ineffable. It is not something one has, but something one is. From this perspective, absolute knowledge exists only beyond knowledge as such. The central paradox. The final paradox is this: any claim to absolute knowledge must justify its own absoluteness. But justification itself relies on criteria that are never absolute. Thus, the very assertion of absolute knowledge undermines itself. What remains is humility, not as weakness, but as philosophical honesty. The 30 foundational questions explained. 1. What does it mean to know something? Knowing implies understanding, justification, and truth, but none are fully stable. 2. Is certainty required for knowledge? Science suggests no. Skepticism suggests yes. The tension remains unresolved. 3. Can something be true without being known? Yes. Truth may exceed human access. 4. Do the senses reveal reality or illusion? They reveal structured appearances, not reality itself. 5. How do we distinguish dreaming from waking? Practically, by coherence, not absolute proof. 6. Can reason justify itself? No, all reasoning rests on assumptions. 7. Is knowledge independent of the knower? Evidence suggests it is always relational. 8. Are mathematical truths absolute? They are conditionally absolute within systems. 9. What is truth? Correspondence, coherence, or pragmatic success? No single definition prevails. This is truth, discovered or created, likely both, depending on the domain. 11. Does language reveal or distort reality? It does both simultaneously. 12. Does science seek truth or usefulness? Primarily usefulness grounded in predictive power. 13. Are scientific theories approximations? Yes, by their own admission. 14. Can absolute truth be expressed? Possibly not without distortion. 15. Does silence convey more than words? In mysticism, often yes. 16. Can consciousness know itself? Only indirectly and incompletely. 17. Can the self be known? The self appears more as process than object. 18. Is there a view from nowhere? No evidence suggests this is possible. 19. Does time relativize truth? Some truths endure. Interpretations evolve.